cold in Maine doesn't announce itself. It just settles into your bones and stays there. That last week of December, the whole town felt frozen in place. Empty streets, pine woods buried under a thick, undisturbed white. Ryan had come up for the holidays, invited by his cousin, expecting nothing more than a quiet winter break away from the city. He didn't expect to end up in a hospital bed by morning, New Year's Eve. The town was buzzing in its own small way, a few strings of fireworks waiting to go off, a couple of house parties glowing warm through frosted windows. But Ryan and his two local friends, Neil and Jack, wanted none of that. Instead, the three of them found an open lot behind the indoor basketball courts, flipped on the floodlights, and spent the night throwing snowballs like it was a real ball game. They laughed until their sides hurt. Time slipped by the way it does when you're not paying attention to it. By the time anyone thought to check a clock, it was almost 1:45 in the morning, and the cold had finally caught up with all three of them. They said their goodnights right there in the field. Neil and Jack's houses were only a few minutes' walk away, so they peeled off toward their own front lawns, waving as they went. Ryan still had almost half a mile ahead of him. That's when the quiet really set in. Not the comfortable kind of quiet, the kind that makes you very aware of your own footsteps. The temperature had dropped to somewhere around -4. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound except the crunch of his boots pressing into old snow. Ryan clicked on his flashlight, a solid LED, bright enough to cut a clean path ahead of him, and started walking. The only way home was past the old sawmill. It wasn't a place anyone in town felt good about. Back in the 1950s, an industrial accident had killed several workers there. The mill limped along for a while after that, but it eventually shut down for good. The wooden walls had gone gray and soft with rot. The machinery inside had rusted into strange, frozen shapes. The broken windows stared out at the road like something that had been waiting a long time. Ryan had always figured the stories about the place were just small-town superstition, nothing more. But when he reached the front of the mill, he stopped walking. There was a light, a weak, yellowish glow leaking out through one of the shattered windows, the kind of dim, sickly light an old sodium lamp throws when it's dying, flickering, struggling to stay lit, and underneath it, a low mechanical sound, something heavy turning slowly again and again, a dull, grinding groan like gears that hadn't moved in decades were somehow moving now. Ryan stood frozen for a few seconds, just listening. That shouldn't be possible. There had been no power running to that building in decades. He told himself it was nothing. Maybe some far-off light was bouncing off a piece of broken glass. Maybe the wind was playing tricks with the sound, twisting it into something it wasn't. There was no reason to stand around figuring it out. He picked up his pace instead, boots crunching faster against the packed snow. That's when he heard it. Two voices, laughing quietly behind him. Neil's voice, Jack's voice. He was sure of it. Whatever unease had been building in his chest let go all at once. He almost laughed himself, turning around with a grin already forming. What, you guys coming back for more? He was still talking when he turned. The white beam of his flashlight swept across the snow, and his breath caught in his throat. 4 black shapes sat perfectly still in the middle of the road. At first glance, they looked like cats, but they were wrong. Too big, close to the size of a mid-sized dog. Their fur was so dense and so black that Ryan couldn't make out where their bodies actually ended. just 4 pairs of eyes, catching the light and throwing it back in a deep, unnatural red. None of them moved. None of them made a sound. Then, from the throat of one of them, came a low, rasping noise. It was such a strange sound that for one disoriented second, Ryan's mind tried to convince him it was just people. A few voices whispering very softly, very far away. He shook the thought off almost as soon as it landed. It had to be the cold, twisting the noise into something it wasn't. But in the next moment, all 4 of them rose to their feet, together, slowly, deliberately. Their eyes never left him, not for a single second. Every nerve in Ryan's body screamed the same word: run. He didn't wait even one more second to obey. The flashlight slipped from his hand and hit the snow, and the light went out. He ran like he had never run in his life. Behind him, he could hear the heavy sound of something crashing through snow, but he had no idea how close it was. Fear wouldn't let him look back, not once. By the time he reached the wooden deck of his cousin's house, he was slamming both fists against the door as hard as he could. After that, there's nothing. His memory simply stops. He woke up the next morning in a hospital. The doctors told him he'd developed hypothermia from staying out too long in the extreme cold. He was lucky. A neighbor had spotted him collapsed on the front steps just before dawn and called for emergency help right away. The moment he was discharged, Ryan went straight to Neil and Jack and told them everything. Both of them looked at him like he'd lost his mind. They swore that after leaving the field, they'd walk straight into their old houses. Neither of them had gone back out. Neither of them had followed him. Neither of them had called his name. A few days later, Ryan's uncle brought the story to an old man who'd lived in town his whole life. The old man went quiet for a long moment before he finally spoke. That road by the old mill, a lot of folks steer clear of it, especially on the last night of the year. Not everybody sees the same thing out there, but the ones who do see something, they don't walk that road alone a second time. To this day, Ryan can't say for certain what he saw that night. Maybe it really was just the cold, the exhaustion, and the dark playing tricks on a tired mind. Or maybe something is still waiting by that old sawmill. Something nobody has ever been able to explain. There's a kind of quiet that comes right after something like that. Not peace. Just the absence of an answer. I keep coming back to the part where he says he heard them laughing. Not footsteps. Not a growl. Laughing. Voices he knew. Calling him back toward the one place he should have kept walking away from. I'm Alex Vane, and you've been listening to Unquiet Corners. If this story found its way into your thoughts tonight, consider subscribing. There's always another quiet corner waiting to be looked into. So the next time you're walking home alone and you hear a familiar voice calling you back, how sure are you that it's really them?